All right, guys, I'm here with Butch Leitzinger. If you're a fan of anything sports car racing in the United States, you know who this person is. Butch, welcome to Oversteer TV.
Thank you, Tony.
Just start off, congratulations, second place PC class in Sebring, the 12 hours of Sebring. That's nothing to sneeze at.
It was a good way to start the year. It's a new team, or it's a team that's been around for a couple of years, but uh, with myself, Rudy Hunko, and Ken Dobson, it's the first time we've gotten together, and everything gelled really well. It's a very good team. Bobby Orgel is the team manager and owner, and he does a fantastic job. The team's very organized. We didn't really have many dramas. We had to change the nose once, which they did with very little drama, and we just were able to have a very consistent, very good Sebring, which is kind of unusual to be able to get through Sebring without having a pretty bad bloody nose.
Um, the PC class used to be LMPC, Formula Le Mans. They keep on changing its name every year.
Yes.
Um, you've always been with either the prototypes or the sports cars, different manufacturers. This is a spec class. How do you approach a spec class different than, let's say, when you were driving the other type of prototypes where you're running against different manufacturers?
The biggest thing, and the biggest thing that's been a change for me is, especially the first time I got in the car. I came out of the car and I said, "Okay, well, can we change this? Can we change this?" And pretty much everything that I asked for, they said, "No, we can't. It's set." To the extent of the buttons on the steering wheel. I asked if we could put the radio button back to the left side, which is where I've had it pretty much my whole racing career.
Hmm.
And no, that has to stay there as well. So it really has a very narrow area of opportunity where you're allowed to work on the car. But it's still having a strong engineer and a good understanding of the car, it still pays off. It's even though you aren't able to have as much freedom to do whatever you want with the car, it still requires real solid engineering principles to be able to get the car to make it fast.
Well, when most people they hear spec series, they think of something that's kind of like slow and ponderous. This is hardly the case. These cars are pretty quick, aren't they?
Yeah, they did a very good job with this. It's because you're right. Quite often, for whatever reason, I don't really understand it. With most spec series, they they do a really bad job. They make the cars ugly for one thing, which it seems to me if you have a spec series, you have the freedom to make the car good looking, since you don't have to worry about competition. And then they also dumb it down too much. Whereas with this one, they made a proper prototype. It's got good downforce. The horsepower is a little bit low. It's about 450, maybe a little bit more than that horsepower. But the good thing is it makes a lot of torque. So you're still having to drive it coming off the turn. You can't just open the throttle and not worry about wheel spin. You still have to feed the power in gently. Uh, they've done a good job with the benefit of a spec series is basically just to reduce the costs,
Hmm.
and they've done a good job of that. With talking to our team and to some of the other teams, everyone is very complimentary on where they've limited things. So you aren't just going out and spending $100,000 on differentials and kind of all these little dead ends of throwing money over into a black hole. So you're able to make a competitive car that looks good on the track, and at the same time doesn't have to rob you blind.
Right. You mentioned the motor. Those are pretty much just Chevrolet Corvette crate motors they stick in there, and I love the sound. Um, okay, you've done Sebring, you got second place. Now you're going to Long Beach. It's like, that's compared to Sebring, it's a sprint race. And even though Long Beach is a street, it's like being on a billiard table compared to Sebring. How do you know, you personally and the team also, how do you guys adapt going from Sebring, the 12-hour grueling beat you up with that track, to Long Beach, which is basically a sprint race?
It's a very different kind of philosophy and preparation for it. Sebring, there's so much lead time to it. We have one or two tests before the whole Sebring week begins, and then and then we're there for the entire week. Monday, Tuesday, et cetera, before the race. So you have a lot of track time. You're able to really kind of fiddle with everything and get the car really adjusted, to pretty exact specification. For Long Beach, it's the exact opposite. The race is Saturday. You show up on Friday. The first session's at 7 o'clock on Friday morning. The first car's on the track, so the track is going to be horribly green. No grip on it the first time we go out there, and there's going to be 35 cars out there, so it's going to be incredibly crowded as well. And that's our only practice. We have a qualifying session after that, and then we don't have a warm up. We have a race. So you're pretty much just thrown in there. Hopefully, the engineer has a good base setup, a setup coming off the truck, and you're able to arrive at it pretty quickly. Because if you're really having to do a lot of work to try to figure out what your problems are, the time slips away very quickly. So I think time management is much more critical at Long Beach, and as well as just getting your sums right before you even get there. And then as far as the actual track itself, as you say, Sebring is just incredibly bumpy. It's in its own league. Long Beach, most street tracks are fairly bumpy. Long Beach is actually one of the best ones out there. It's got a few places that have some bumps, but but Long Beach's layout is actually much better than about every other street course because there's some long straights, there's some challenging turns that are a little bit quicker. It's not just all stop, start, second gear turns. You actually has some flow to it, and some places where you can actually pass. So, of course, the problem with all street tracks is any mistake is very costly because of the concrete barriers right alongside. But it makes it so it really rewards a very exact precision on the driving. If you're able to get it within inside an inch on the apex and in the exit, it pays off in speed, and as long as you can do that consistently without hitting the wall, it really helps.
Last question. You mentioned traffic, and there's going to be so many cars on the track. I ask all the guys, American Le Mans, Grand Am, all the endurance series, the same question. I always get a little bit of a different answer. How do you deal with traffic? Not with the guys you have to pass that are in the cars that are slower than you, in the class slower, and also the cars that are faster in the class that's faster than you. Are you one of the guys at schools like, hey, I'm running my race, the faster guys have to figure out their own way around me? Or are you one of these guys, well, they're the faster guys, I let them go, and then I deal with my stuff?
Um, my philosophy has always been you just really have to get along with everyone, and that means that you don't. Everything has a price. If you really shaft somebody, like you maybe try to outbrake someone, or a faster car coming up on you. If you try to make life really difficult for them for this one turn, there's probably 2 or 3 more times where that faster car is going to come up to pass you again, and they can make your life difficult as well. So it becomes where you try to get like a good kind of body language in the car, and show them where you're going to let them through and make it easy on them, and then the places where it's a little bit dodgy and it's going to hurt you more. You try to show them beforehand that I'm not going to let you in here, just so that they can prepare for it. Where it can be a problem is where everyone kind of arrives at the turn not knowing what the other's doing, and you get a surprise. And you can kind of have the Formula One attitude of I'm this is my racetrack and everyone can just figure out how to get around me, but that it catches up with you. And the benefit of racing in the same series with these people for most of the year, for the whole year, is that you understand who you're racing against, and you actively are looking at the helmets of the cars that you're coming up on to pass, and the ones
Right.
behind as well. So who's even in the car, because we have 2 or 3 drivers in a car. It makes it difficult at Sebring, by the way, especially when there were that many new cars and new driver combinations. There was a lot of people that you just had no idea who they were, and didn't know if you could trust them. So it made for a lot of maybe a little bit more tension than normal, even for Sebring. Long Beach, it gets down to more kind of the usual cast of characters. So you have a little bit more of a logbook on who does what.
Mhm.
But yeah, the bottom line though is that you need to be able to give, but to do it in such a way that you lose the least amount of time for yourself, and ideally for the for the overtaking car as well. If it's not in your class, just to get some good good vibes between the two of you, so that if it comes too late in the race, and they can help you out a little bit, sometimes they do.
All right, Butch. I like that answer. Very diplomatic. I'm sure with a lap or two to go, battling for the lead, all that goes out the window. But
Yes, yes, it does.
all right. Thanks again, Butch Leitzinger, driver, PR1 Racing, PC class. I hate that name for that class this year. They have to change it back to LMPC. PC class. And good luck in Long Beach.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right. Take care.